The Arsdale Miniature Railway was making the most of its last working month in operation. Wherever they could, as many engines as possible were put on the trains for visitors to have one final run with them whilst the line lasted. Oliver spoke sympathetically to Bert when they next met. "I'm really sorry your line has to close, Bert. I just don't understand all this. Why do you need to leave? The railway should be built to last, not moved whenever someone disagrees to it." Henry once told me of an engine who said, "If you ever leave these rails and it's not under your own power, you're in trouble." He's right, you know. So, when do you leave?
Well, we've not actually been sold yet, Oliver. We'll be stored in the shed for at least a month in case we need to help take down the line. The small controller says it's a good time for us to have our annual steam test.
No, that's just cruel, making an engine take down their own rails. This landlord of yours should be ashamed of himself. He'll regret closing you down. At least I hope he will. Anyways, Bert, I must be off. We will miss you when you're gone, you know. On the very last day, Duck, Oliver, Donald and Douglas brought special trains filled with passengers, wishing to say their goodbyes. Jock, Bert, Rex and Frank sat outside the shed, whilst the two Blister twins scurried around organising the yards.
So, our last day. It would have been nice for Mike to have been here.
It would have been even nicer if Frank had bothered to wake up.
What? Huh? Oh, did I miss anything?
Stay awake for a while, Frank. You can have a long sleep when this day is over.
Just then, a very smartly dressed small controller came walking up to the engines.
I'd like to take the opportunity to say it's been an absolute honour being your controller. We may have had our good and bad times. I remember every one of you who've come off the track. You've always been picked up and begun again. We may be in dark times now, but it's not just the railway that our landlord has closed. He's closed a truly remarkable place where all of you have carried on despite whatever has happened. To have such loyalty and trust is...
Sir, are you crying?
No, of course I'm not. I was just about to sneeze is all. Now, you all go out and make the best day your last. I mean, make your last day your best.
The engines were coupled in one long row, and the passengers flocked all over the station to get a good view as, Rex leading, they held a grand cavalcade with whistles and cheering all round. Many passengers wished them good luck, and took their photographs one last time. Then, as the day drew to a close, each engine was rolled back into the sheds, and the doors locked in front of them.
I've never known ye are so quiet, Oliver. It isn't the same happy atmosphere around here without them.
Oh, I know what you mean. With their line gone, I've noticed we haven't been getting a lot of passengers ourselves. We'll be next to close if it goes on like this.
This weather isn't helping much either. I've never seen so much rain. Having lived in the UK all my life, that's saying something.
A few days later, an engineer arrived to inspect the engines whilst the line was quiet. Each was in steam so that their pipes could be inspected for any steam leaks. Outside, the rain lashed against the shed doors and whistled through the gaps in the roof. Bert was being inspected when a branch broke against the shed window and shattered it to pieces. Bert jumped and let off a huge gush of steam. The inspector coughed and spluttered as the steam slowly cleared from the shed.
Boy, I feel sorry for whoever has to go out in that weather.
Meanwhile, out in the weather, the landlord was up at one of the mines. He was being shown round by one of the workmen to negotiate about the closure of the railway. The rain pelted down as the wind picked up stone dust and carried it around the deep cuttings of the mine.
Perhaps we should continue this meeting another time.
No way. I've got this soaked now. It can't get worse than this. I want to continue this tour and see what state this old shack is really in.
I don't think we should go any further. The rock faces may not be safe for all this rain.
Ah, pathetic. Looks solid as a rock to me. Come on, quit being a whim. I want to get this over and done with.
The poor workman stayed right where he was as the landlord boldly walked ahead. He couldn't hear it, but underneath him the stones crumbled with his weight. The rain softened the soil and made it easier for it to slip. It did.
Are you okay, sir? Sir?
No! Of course I'm not okay! I've just been part of a huge avalanche. How could I possibly be okay?
Didn't you mean a landslide, sir?
I don't care. It's pouring down with rain and... I think I've broken my leg. Get help, please! Would you?
This time, the landlord really had broken his leg and needed urgent hospital attention. The workman rushed to the mine office and snatched the phone.
Emergency service. Which service do you require?
Sir, ambulance, please.
Alright, please hold.
Caller, you have reached emergency services. How may I help you?
Hi, I've got a man here who's fallen down a cutting. I think he's broke his leg, but I'm not sure what else.
Okay, what's your location, please?
The Mayfleet Mining Complex on the western coast of Sodor.
Right, we only have one ambulance available and it's in Wellsworth at the moment. I can send it over to you, but it may take a few hours because there's roadworks north of Tidmouth. All other vehicles are out already, I'm afraid.
Can you not get here sooner? Send an air ambulance or something. It's literally not a good idea to leave this guy down there in the storm.
That's exactly why we can't send in an air ambulance, sir. The storms are just too fierce for that, I'm afraid. Is there any way you could get to Tidmouth? We can get a paramedic quicker if you can do that.
Okay, yes, I can do that. Can you tell the emergency service to meet us outside Tidmouth railway station? We should be there in about an hour or two.
The small controller stood in the engine sheds at Arlsberg, looking at the framed photos on the wall.
To think, nearly 50 years ago, the Reverend Audrey and Teddy Boston visited you lot and made a book about us. He'd be furious if he heard about what's happening. Times are a-changing, I suppose. Not much we can do to change that sometimes. The future knew this was going to happen. Hello, Arsdale Railway Loco Sheds. Yes, I see. Well, we'll be there as soon as we can. Get him under cover if you can. We shouldn't worsen his mood any further.
Who was that, sir?
A call from one of the mines up the line. There's been a landslide and the landlord has broken his leg. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing this as an opportunity to prove ourselves, and I think so is the mines. We are essential to them as they are to us. Now, here's the plan. Rex, you're still in steam, aren't you?
Yes, I finished my steam test a few minutes ago.
Good. Take one of the covered coaches and head up the mines straight away. Bring a first aid kit with you, then bring the landlord back here. I'll ring the Fat Controller for one of his engines to meet you back here.
But, sir, we aren't allowed to run on the line anymore. The landlord made it perfectly clear that we are banned from running here after our last day.
He didn't mention about the case of an emergency, especially one involving him. We've done everything we could to stop all services on the line after our closure, but not at the risk of harming a life. Carry on, Rex.
Yes, sir. needs help, and we're the only ones who can help him. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, let's go!
He raced down the line, his driver struggling to keep up shoveling the coal as the miniature train rocked and swayed through the forest. He whistled at every crossing and straight past every station, which was silent anyway. They were over the speed limit, but it didn't matter. Who'd care? At long last, they reached the junction, and the driver ran in front to change the points, then drove on towards the complex.
Is that a train? I thought I banned this toy train set from running on my land.
You should be grateful. We're here to rescue you, sir. No ambulance can get this far in time, so this toy train right here is all you've got to get yourself to the hospital, whether you like it or not.
The landlord wisely shut up after that, and winced in over-dramatic pain as he was lifted into the coach. Rex ran round on the turntable again, then slowly and carefully headed back for home. He ran as smooth as he could back to Wildberg, and made good time. Rain speared onto his smoke box and hissed as it wiped down his boiler, but the gallant little engine carried on. Even his own driver was impressed, and he braked the train into the yards just before the ballast chute, where Oliver was waiting with Isabel. Dawned on his lamp irons were two gleaming headlamps, one on each end of his frames. Don't think I've ever worn express head coats before. I believe you have a patient for me.
You bet. He's just getting on board now. I tell you, Oliver, that was the best run I've had in my whole life. At least I've got one last happy memory before I leave. What a run that was!
Good on you, Rex. Anyways, must be off myself. Express passenger train here. Goodbye. Oliver steamed away just as the clouds began to part. Through the bleak grey, a bold gold light shone upon the yards. The rain had stopped completely.
Huh, would you look at that? Of course the sun would shine at the end of the journey. Okay, never mind.
But the journey wasn't exactly over for Rex yet. Down the line, Oliver reached Tidmouth in good time, and the landlord met an ambulance crew on the platform, who took him away to hospital.
Wake up, you lot! I've got some news you may want to hear.
It's that other railway, isn't it? They've agreed to buy us.
Not quite, though something has been bought.
New parts for Mike or something?
No, guess again. It's right in front of you.
Sir, you haven't been bought, have you? Where are we going to work?
No, I've not been bought. But the ground we're standing on right now has.
I don't get it. Why would anyone want to buy a load of old soil and ballast?
Not exactly what I meant, Jock. We no longer have a landlord.
He died? I thought he had a broken leg.
No, Rex.
The small controller took out his phone and showed him a text message from the landlord. The engines didn't understand a word of it, so he explained anyway.
That landlord of ours has agreed to sell the land to our owner. We can now own this railway for good.
I thought he wasn't willing to sell the land to us. Besides, we don't have the money to pay for that, surely.
That's just the thing, Bert. After Rex went out to his rescue yesterday, he had a long, toy train of thought about his opinion on our business. As for funds to officially buy the land, well, thank your little western friends for that.
Duck and Oliver? How did they come into this?
They asked to Topham if they could help raise money to save the Arsdale Railway. So in every train, passengers on the North Western have been donating, and online there's been a fund to help raise money for our little line. After he heard about it yesterday, our owner submitted the money to the landlord, who accepted it. Control has been relinquished to us.
The shed, and the entire yard for that matter, were alight with delighted cheers and claps. The Arsdale Miniature Railway was preserved, and the little engines was to stay on Sodor. They had a lot to thank Duck and Oliver for. Each time they met, they whistled a happy greeting in respect. The line is now busier than it has ever been, and the landlord was never seen or heard of by the railway again, who are now independent and running strong. Mike returns, a year or so later, to a further celebrational gala, with a fresh boiler ticket and mended frames. The driver of the car that had collided with him is now recovered, and he's learnt his lesson. He now takes extra care whenever he's near the railway, even if it is just a toy train set. It may be a miniature railway, but it's definitely not one that should be underestimated.